John Carter was a man who exuded confidence and security. Tall, with muscles defined by hard work and a face marked by strong features. His green eyes always reflected determination and empathy. His firefighter uniform, impeccably clean, highlighted the aura of respect he carried with him. At the Los Angeles fire station, John was known for his skill and dedication. His colleagues admired him not only for his technical competence but also for the way he cared about each team member. He always said that a firefighting team was like a family, and he made sure to cultivate that sense of unity. His day began early, even before sunrise. John liked to run through the quiet streets of the city, feeling the fresh morning air and hearing the distant sound of traffic gradually intensifying. This morning run was not just physical exercise. It was a moment of reflection. He thought about the lives he had saved and the ones he still could save. He also thought about his own life, marked by a void that only he completely understood. After the run, he had a quick coffee in his organized kitchen. The simple decoration reflected his practical personality. Functional furniture, neutral colors, and few decorations, except for some family photographs. There was one photo in particular that he always looked at before leaving, an image of him with his younger sister, Emma. They were laughing, hugging, a moment captured before their lives changed drastically. At the fire station, the routine was busy. Alarms frequently rang, calling the team to various emergencies. John was always the first to gear up, leading the team with inspiring calm. During one of these calls, a fire in an old building downtown, he once again demonstrated his courage. As flames dangerously danced close to a staircase threatening to collapse, he managed to rescue a child trapped on the 3rd floor. The mother, seeing John emerge with the child in his arms, wept with relief, hugging them as if it were a miracle. The moments of action were intense, but there were also moments of camaraderie at the station. John enjoyed playing cards with his colleagues during quieter hours. Between games, they talked about their lives, sharing stories and laughter. John was a calming presence, always willing to listen and offer wise advice. Outside of work, John had a personal life that he carefully balanced. He lived alone in a modest but comfortable house. His sister, Emma, sometimes visited, and these visits were precious moments for him. Emma was the only close family he had, and their bond was deep, marked by a shared past of overcoming difficulties together. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, John was sitting on his porch, looking at the starry sky. He held a cold beer, reflecting on the day's events. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Emma. She excitedly talked about a new job opportunity that had come up, and John felt a wave of pride for his sister. She had always been a fighter, and he knew how much that job meant to her. "John, you're my inspiration," she said, and he smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and responsibility. As they talked, the feeling that something big was coming grew inside him. He didn't know it yet, but those quiet moments were the prelude to events that would change his life forever. And as the night progressed, John Carter, the brave and dedicated firefighter, was about to face challenges that would test not only his physical strength, but also his emotional resilience and sense of justice. The sky over Beverly Hills was tinged with a somber orange as flames consumed one of the region's most luxurious mansions. The news spread quickly, and soon a curious crowd gathered around the property, kept at a distance by police tape. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the palpable tension. John Carter was in the fire truck, observing the scene as he mentally prepared for the colossal task ahead. Beside him, the team was silent, each dealing with the adrenaline in their own way. Sarah, one of the most experienced firefighters, adjusted her helmet while exchanging glances with John. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a bond forged in many battles against fire. The radio crackled with the voice of the operation chief. "Alpha Team, prepare to enter. There are reports of people trapped inside the mansion." John gritted his teeth and responded firmly, "Understood, we're on our way." Upon arriving at the main entrance, the flames had already spread through the 1st and 2nd floors, turning the luxurious mansion into a hell of heat and destruction. Windows burst, sending shards of glass and sparks into the air. The sound of sirens, mixed with muffled screams, created a cacophony of urgency. "Entry formation. Let's go," John shouted, leading the team inside. The mansion's entrance was a spectacle of opulence and chaos. The white marble floor was covered in ashes and debris, and the luxurious dark wood furniture was now just piles of charcoal. The heat was suffocating, and visibility was limited by thick smoke. "Sarah, take Beta Team to the second floor. Alpha Team and I will cover the first floor," John ordered, his voice firmly cutting through the surrounding noise. As they advanced, the team checked each room. In the grand hall, which once hosted elegant parties, John found an elderly man, unconscious near a fireplace. He quickly lifted him, feeling the weight of the frail body in his arms. "We need a safe exit," he shouted into the radio. "The emergency stairwell on the east side is still accessible," came Sarah's response. John, with the man in his arms, moved quickly toward the indicated exit. Each step was a struggle against heat and smoke. When they finally reached the stairs, he handed the man over to a waiting paramedic. Back in the mansion, the situation only worsened. The flames moved with frightening speed, consuming everything in their path. John knew time was of the essence. Climbing the stairs, he heard a faint cry coming from one of the rooms. Pushing the door open, he found a young woman clinging to a small child, both terrified. The panic in her eyes met John's, and he felt a pang in his heart. "It's going to be okay. I'm here to help," he said, with the calmest and most reassuring voice he could muster. He picked up the child while holding the woman's hand, guiding them through the maze of fire and smoke. Each step was a battle, but John's determination never wavered. When they finally reached the outside, the sight of the woman crying with relief, holding her child, was a silent testament to the firefighter's heroism. But the night was far from over. There were rumors that others were still trapped on the upper floors. John knew he couldn't rest until he was sure everyone was safe. The fight against the fire in the Beverly Hills mansion was more than a test of courage. It was a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a man dedicated to saving lives, no matter the cost. As the team regrouped and prepared for more incursions, John looked at the burning mansion and felt a renewed determination. He knew every second counted, and he was ready to face any challenge ahead because, to him, every life was precious, and every rescue was a victory. The sirens cut through the cold Los Angeles night as the fire truck approached another blaze. John Carter, still feeling the effects of the previous fire, was in the front seat, watching the dense smoke rising in the distance. The radio crackled with constant updates, and the tension in the air was almost tangible. Arriving at the scene, John noticed that the fire was consuming a 5-story residential building, situated between a dark alley and a busy street. The crowd had already gathered, murmuring worriedly. Quickly disembarking, he gathered the team and gave instructions, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "The main focus is rescue. We'll go in teams of 2. Stay alert and keep in contact," John ordered, his eyes scanning the building for signs of life. As he approached the building, John noticed 2 distinct figures on the second floor, both trapped on opposite sides of the fire. On the left side, Lucy, a homeless woman he often saw around, was desperately trying to open a window. On the right side, Ryan Mitchell, a famous artist whose house was filled with his works, was shouting for help, visibly panicked. Time seemed to slow down as John processed the situation. The fire was spreading rapidly, making it clear that he would only have time to save one person before the building became completely inaccessible. Lucy's face was marked by life on the streets, but her eyes, now wide with fear, conveyed a vulnerability that deeply touched John. He remembered the times he had seen her wandering the streets, invisible to many, but always with a shy smile for those who paid attention. On the other side, Ryan Mitchell, with his refined features and fame, was an icon in the city. John knew that saving someone of such notoriety would bring recognition and could even mean financial support for the fire department. The chief's voice echoed over the radio, bringing John back to the present. "John, what's your situation?" He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the choice. "We have two victims on opposite sides of the building. I'm following my instinct." With renewed determination, he chose Lucy. John ran down the narrow, smoke-filled corridor towards the woman. Flames licked the walls, and the heat was almost unbearable. When he reached her, Lucy's eyes met his, filled with gratitude and disbelief. "I came to get you out. Trust me," he said, his voice firm but full of compassion. Lifting her carefully, he felt the fragility of her body. Each step was a fight against the fire trying to engulf them. The dense smoke made it hard to breathe, but John didn't falter. He knew every second counted. As he exited the building with Lucy in his arms, he heard part of the ceiling collapse on the opposite side. The sight of Ryan's artwork being consumed by flames was a painful reminder of the choice he had made. He handed Lucy to the waiting paramedics, his mind still in turmoil. Back at the truck, as the team dealt with the remaining fire, John couldn't shake the conflicting emotions. He knew he had followed his humanitarian instinct, but the loss of Ryan Mitchell weighed on his conscience. His colleagues' looks were mixed, some understanding, others questioning. Sarah approached, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You did what you thought was right, John, and you saved a life. That's what matters." He nodded, but her words, although comforting, didn't completely dissipate the internal conflict. Deep down, he knew that tough choices were part of the job, but each one left an indelible mark. As the night advanced and the fire finally subsided, John looked at the horizon, still tinged orange by the fire. He knew that, regardless of the consequences, he had to continue following his instinct and heart because, in the end, that was what made him the firefighter and the man he was. The morning after the fire brought a new kind of hell for John Carter. The sun had barely risen when he was called into the commander's office at the fire station. The atmosphere was heavy with tension, and John felt the weight of imminent criticism even before crossing the door. The commander, a middle-aged man with a severe demeanor and features marked by experience, was sitting behind his desk, flipping through a newspaper. The headline blared in bold letters: "Hero firefighter or villain? John Carter chooses to save homeless woman and lets famous artist perish in flames." "John, sit down," ordered the commander without lifting his eyes from the newspaper. His voice was grave, filled with a mix of disappointment and concern. John obeyed, feeling the critical gazes of colleagues passing by the hallway. He could hear muffled murmurs, a combination of speculation and judgment. The room was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, but the tension was palpable. "You know this decision has caused an uproar," continued the commander, finally looking at John. "Ryan Mitchell's family is demanding explanations, and the media won't let this go." John took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I did what I thought was right, Commander." Lucy was closer and in a more vulnerable position. "I didn't have time to save both." The commander sighed, rubbing his temples. "I understand your perspective, but the external pressure is intense. We need a public statement to try to calm things down." As the conversation continued, the phone on the commander's desk rang incessantly. It was the press, eager for an official statement. John left the office with a mix of frustration and resignation. He knew he would face a difficult battle outside the fires he was used to fighting. Upon leaving the station, he was immediately surrounded by reporters. Microphones and cameras were pointed at him, and questions came from all sides. "Why did you choose to save a homeless woman instead of a famous artist? Do you regret your decision? How do you respond to accusations of acting out of prejudice?" John raised his hand, asking for silence. "I understand the pain of Ryan Mitchell's family and deeply regret their loss. As a firefighter, my duty is to save lives. At that moment, I made the choice I thought was best with the information I had. Every life is precious, regardless of social status." His words were met with a mix of support and skepticism. The crowd outside the station was divided. Some carried signs that read, "True hero," and "Every life matters," while others showed indignation with phrases like, "Justice for Ryan Mitchell." In the midst of the crowd, John recognized Lucy. She was visibly emotional, holding an improvised sign that said, "Thank you, John." Her grateful look gave him some comfort, a reminder of why he did that job. Returning to the station, the atmosphere among his colleagues was tense. Some supported his decision, recognizing the difficulty of the choice. Others, like Mike, a veteran firefighter with whom John had had disagreements in the past, were not as understanding. "You did what you thought was right, John, but we need to be prepared for the consequences," said Sarah, trying to offer comforting support. John nodded, knowing her words were true. The criticism was not limited to the media and the public. Within the fire department itself, there were heated discussions about what could have been done differently. The pressure was everywhere. At the end of the day, as John reflected on recent events, he knew there were no easy answers. A firefighter's life was filled with tough decisions and moments of uncertainty. He had followed his instinct and values, but that didn't make the situation any less painful. With a sigh, he closed his eyes, trying to mentally prepare for the challenges still to come. The journey wouldn't be easy, but John was determined to face every obstacle, knowing that deep down, his commitment was to humanity and justice. The day was gray, reflecting John Carter's state of mind as he headed to the fire station. Since the fire and the ensuing fallout, he knew his position was threatened, but he wasn't prepared for what was to come. The atmosphere at the station was strange, loaded with a silent tension that seemed to foreshadow what was about to happen. Upon entering, John was immediately called into the commander's office. The walk there seemed longer than usual, each step echoing like a prelude to something inevitable. His colleagues avoided his gaze. Some looked embarrassed, others just sad. The office door was ajar, and as he pushed it open, he found the commander seated, with a grave look and a white envelope on the desk. "John, sit down," said the commander, his voice lacking the usual firmness. John obeyed, trying to stay calm. He felt his heart racing, each beat resonating in his ears. "We've received numerous complaints, both from Ryan Mitchell's family and from some community members," the commander began, choosing his words carefully. "In addition, the media pressure has been unbearable. The board has decided that we need to take a stand." John felt a tightness in his chest. He knew what was coming, but hearing the words still struck hard. "John, we're terminating you for misconduct and poor judgment," said the commander, pushing the envelope towards John. "Here are the documents. You can take them home, read them, and sign." For a moment, time seemed to stop. John stared at the envelope, feeling a mix of disbelief, anger, and sadness. "I've given my life to this job," he murmured, his voice breaking. The commander sighed, his expression softening slightly. "I know, John, and no one here doubts your commitment or bravery. But the political and public situation has made your continued employment untenable." Leaving the office, John felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath his feet. He walked through the station in silence, collecting his things with slow, automated movements. Each item he placed in the box seemed to carry an emotional weight, a symbol of a career built with sweat and sacrifice. Sarah approached, her eyes filled with tears. "John, this is absurd. You don't deserve this," she said, hugging him tightly. John returned the hug, feeling the sincere support of his friend. "Thank you, Sarah, but it seems there's not much I can do now." Mike, who had often been critical of John, also approached. "We may have had our differences, but you're one of the best firefighters I've ever known. This place won't be the same without you," he admitted with a respectful nod. Leaving the station for the last time, John looked at the building that had been his second home. The sound of sirens, the smell of smoke and sweat, the laughter shared with colleagues, all now part of a painful past. He crossed the courtyard, where some firefighters watched him in silence, feeling the solidarity but also the powerlessness. Back at his house, the loneliness hit hard. He sat on the couch, looking at the box with his belongings from the station. Photos of successful rescues, medals of honor, and thank you notes from people whose lives he had touched. Each item seemed a cruel reminder of what he had lost. The news of his dismissal quickly spread, and soon the news outlets were filled with heated debates about the decision. Some defended John, pointing to his unblemished career and many heroic rescues. Others, however, maintained that the decision was fair given the tragedy and public criticism. John turned off the TV, unable to bear the cacophony of opinions. He knew that, regardless of external voices, he would have to face his own emotions and find a new direction for his life. The sadness and shock were deep, but there was also a spark of determination. He was not just a firefighter. He was someone who had dedicated his life to saving others, and that was something no one could take away from him. Sitting in the small corner cafe he frequented, John Carter stirred his coffee absent-mindedly, lost in thought. The news of his dismissal still weighed heavily on his heart, and the void left by his lost career seemed impossible to fill. The cafe doorbell rang, and a familiar figure entered, bringing a breath of fresh air. "John!" Lucy's soft voice brought John back to the present. He looked up and met her gaze, full of gratitude and concern. Lucy still had the worn appearance of life on the streets, but her eyes shone with a new determination. "Lucy, hi," he said, trying to force a smile. "What brings you here?" She approached, holding a small paper bag. "I heard about your dismissal. I wanted to thank you again. You saved my life. And, well, I thought you might need some company." John gestured to the chair opposite him, inviting her to sit. "You don't need to thank me, Lucy. I was just doing my job." "No, John," she said with unexpected firmness. "You did more than that. You saw me when no one else did. You gave me a chance to go on. And now it's my turn to give back." She pulled a small cake from the bag, placing it carefully on the table. "It's not much, but I thought a little sweetness might help." John genuinely smiled for the first time in days. "Thank you, Lucy. You didn't have to bother." As they talked, John began to realize the strength Lucy possessed. She spoke about her life on the streets, the daily hardships she faced, and how that near-death experience had changed her. She was determined to rebuild her life and wanted John to know he was part of that change. As the days passed, Lucy and John began meeting regularly. They developed a simple routine: breakfast at the little cafe, walks in the park, and deep conversations that went beyond words. Lucy shared her survival stories, her struggles, and small victories. John, in turn, shared his frustrations and anxieties, finding in Lucy an attentive and understanding listener. One day, while sitting on a park bench under a large tree, John looked at Lucy with admiration. "You are stronger than you think, you know?" Lucy shrugged, a shy smile appearing on her lips. "I think we all are, in one way or another. You are too, John. You just need to find a new path." The meetings with Lucy became a source of comfort and inspiration for John. She encouraged him to look forward, to seek new opportunities. He began to think about how he could use his experience and skills in a different way, perhaps helping others in emergency situations in different ways. One particularly cold afternoon, Lucy took John to a community center where she had started volunteering. The place was full of people, each with their own story of overcoming. Lucy introduced John to some of the volunteers and regulars, speaking passionately about the work they did there. "John, this place needs people like you. Someone who understands the value of every life, someone who isn't afraid to act when necessary," she said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. John looked around, seeing faces full of hope and determination. He felt a spark of purpose rekindle inside him. "Maybe you're right, Lucy. Maybe I can make a difference here." From that day on, John began to get involved in the community center, helping in every way he could. He taught first aid techniques, helped distribute food, and, most importantly, listened to people's stories, offering support and understanding. The friendship between John and Lucy grew stronger. They supported each other, each finding strength in the other's words and actions. John saw in Lucy a resilience that inspired him to move forward, while Lucy found in John a loyal mentor and friend. Together, they formed an unlikely but powerful partnership. Amid the difficulties and challenges, they discovered that sometimes the most unexpected connections are the ones that help us overcome the darkest moments, bringing light and hope where there was once only darkness. The unexpected support from the community began as a small spark, quickly growing into a fire of hope and solidarity. The news about John Carter's dismissal who had risked his life to save Lucy, a homeless woman, began to circulate on social media, touching the hearts of many people in Los Angeles. One morning, while John and Lucy were having coffee at the small corner cafe, Lucy's phone started buzzing incessantly. Notifications of messages and mentions on social media kept coming in. "John, look at this," she said, showing him the phone screen. "People are talking about you." Surprised, John took the phone and saw a flood of posts on Twitter and Instagram, all praising his bravery and humanity. Hashtags like #JusticeForJohn and #HeroOfLosAngeles were trending, driven by ordinary citizens, activists, and even local celebrities. While John was still processing the news, the cafe doorbell rang, and a group of young people entered, carrying signs. "John Carter, you are our hero," they shouted, attracting everyone's attention. Lucy laughed, emotional. "It seems your story is touching many people, John." One of the young people approached. "We are organizing a rally in your support. We want you to be reinstated in the fire department. You made the right choice, and the city needs people like you." John was speechless, touched by the spontaneous initiative. "I don't know what to say. Thank you." The following days were an avalanche of support. In front of the fire station, crowds gathered with signs, singing and giving emotional speeches. Families who had been helped by John over the years came to pay tribute, sharing their stories and memories. One of the rally leaders, Maria, a mother whom John had rescued years ago in a residential building fire, took to the improvised stage in front of the station. "John Carter saved my life and my children's lives. He always puts others first. It's unfair that he is being punished for doing what is right." The crowd applauded and cheered in agreement. In parallel, social media campaigns gained momentum. Various stalls sold food and crafts, and a small band played lively music to lift the spirits of those present. Children ran across the field, holding balloons with the words, "True Hero." During one of these events, John took to the stage to thank everyone. Looking at the crowd, he saw familiar and new faces, all united by a common cause. "I have no words to express how grateful I am for the support of all of you. I never imagined my story would touch so many lives. Thank you for believing in me." The audience gave a standing ovation, and Lucy, standing next to him, held his hand, offering strength and solidarity. On one of the most emotional days, a local television network decided to cover the story. A reporter interviewed several people at the rally, including Sarah, John's colleague who had always supported him. "John is one of the best firefighters I've ever known," she said firmly. "He always puts people's lives first. It's an injustice that he was dismissed for following his humanitarian instincts." The public outcry grew to the point where city administrators could no longer ignore it. Under intense pressure, an emergency meeting was called by the city council to discuss John's case. Meanwhile, the rallies continued to gain strength, with people from all over Los Angeles joining in solidarity. Finally, news arrived at the community center. A city council official entered, bringing an air of anticipation. "John Carter," he began with a firm but gentle voice. "After considering all the circumstances and the overwhelming community support, we have decided to reevaluate your dismissal. You will be reinstated in the fire department, with honors and recognition for your bravery." The room erupted in applause and cheers of joy. John, with tears in his eyes, was surrounded by friends and supporters. Lucy, hugging him tightly, whispered, "You deserve this, John," and much more. Amid the celebration, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that, with the community's support, he could continue to make a difference. The journey was still long, but with friends by his side and a city that believed in him, he was ready to face any challenge. The decision to reinstate John Carter in the fire department brought temporary relief, but the legal battle ahead would be an even greater challenge. John knew that to completely clear his name and ensure no other injustices occurred, he would need to face the fire department in court. The preparation for this fight began immediately, and he decided to hire a renowned attorney, Sarah Thompson, a civil rights specialist. Sarah Thompson was a middle-aged woman with a striking presence and an impeccable reputation. Her blue eyes shone with a mix of intelligence and determination, and her voice, always calm and assertive, conveyed confidence. When John first walked into her office, he felt a wave of hope. "John Carter, it's a pleasure to meet you," said Sarah, shaking his hand firmly. "I've been following your case and am determined to fight for you." "Thank you, Sarah," John replied, feeling a lump in his throat. "I need all the help I can get. This battle won't be easy." Sarah nodded, indicating a chair for John to sit. "Let's start with a detailed analysis of the events. I need to understand everything that happened, from the fire to your dismissal." John spent hours in that office, revisiting each painful moment. Sarah asked incisive questions, noting every relevant detail. The atmosphere was intense, but John knew each word was crucial for the case preparation. The attorney was relentless in her pursuit of justice, and this gave John a thread of hope to cling to. As the days passed, the court preparation demanded more from John than he imagined. He spent long hours reviewing documents, recalling testimonies, and preparing for the tough questions he would face in court. Each meeting with Sarah was a mix of exhaustion and renewed strength. "John, we need to focus on the inconsistencies in the accusations against you," explained Sarah one day, while examining the reports of his dismissal. "We will show that you acted according to protocols, and that your decision was based on your experience and humanitarian instinct." The preparation sessions were intense. Sarah didn't spare constructive criticism, helping John strengthen his responses and remain calm under pressure. She also brought in experts in psychology and rescue techniques to reinforce the case, proving that John had followed proper procedures during the fire. However, the emotional difficulties were no less challenging. John often found himself reliving the painful moments of the fire, the impossible choice between saving Lucy or Ryan Mitchell. The nights were the worst. Nightmares haunted him, making him wake up sweaty and with a racing heart. He wondered if he had made the right choice, if he really deserved to go through all this. Lucy was a constant presence during these tough times. They frequently met at the cafe, where Lucy offered her unwavering support. "John, you are a hero, regardless of what happens in court. You saved my life and many others. Never forget that." On one of those particularly tough nights, Lucy organized a small gathering at the community center, where friends and supporters of John came together to offer words of encouragement. Maria, the mother John had rescued, gave a moving speech. "John, you are not alone. We are all here because we believe in you. Your strength and courage inspire us every day. We will fight by your side, no matter what happens." These moments of solidarity gave John the necessary strength to continue. He felt part of something bigger, a community that recognized his value and was willing to fight for him. This helped him face the preparation sessions with Sarah with renewed vigor. Finally, the day of the preliminary hearing arrived. The courtroom was packed, with members of the press, friends, and onlookers. John sat next to Sarah, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but also the strength of support from everyone around him. Sarah stood up, addressing the judge with unwavering confidence. "Your Honor, we are here to prove that John Carter acted according to the highest standards of his duty as a firefighter. He saved lives, followed protocols, and was unjustly accused. We are ready to present the evidence that proves his innocence." As Sarah spoke, John felt a wave of emotion. He knew the battle would be long and arduous, but he was ready to face it. With Sarah by his side and the unwavering support of the community, he had a new hope that justice would prevail. The preparations for the trial were underway, and Sarah Thompson left no stone unturned in her quest for justice for John Carter. One afternoon, while reviewing documents in her office, she received an anonymous phone call that would change the course of the case. The voice on the other end was tense and hesitant. "Ms. Thompson, you need to dig deeper. There are things about John Carter's dismissal that haven't been revealed. There's corruption in the fire department, and the pressure to save Ryan Mitchell wasn't just about a life in danger." Sarah thanked the informant and immediately began investigating. She knew this information could be crucial to John's defense. She spent hours poring over files, examining financial documents, and speaking with contacts inside and outside the department. Meanwhile, John felt increasingly anxious. The court sessions were approaching, and he knew the case depended on Sarah's discoveries. They met frequently to discuss progress, and Sarah always maintained her composure despite the difficulties. One night, after hours of research, Sarah found something that made her heart race. It was an email exchange between two fire department leaders, discussing the importance of saving Ryan Mitchell due to his influential connections and potential donations to the department. The message suggested that John had been fired as a scapegoat to appease public anger and protect financial interests. The next morning, Sarah called John to her office. He entered, anxious, and saw the determined look on Sarah's face. "John, I found something big. Internal emails show that your dismissal was manipulated to protect department leaders and secure future donations from Ryan Mitchell and his contacts." John was stunned. "You're saying I was fired so they could protect their own positions and financial interests?" "Exactly," Sarah replied, showing him the documents. "These emails prove there was deliberate manipulation and corruption within the department. This could change everything." Sarah knew she needed more evidence to strengthen the case. She decided to meet with some of the veteran firefighters who had recently retired, hoping they could provide more information. Among them was Hank, a respected former commander who knew the department's inner workings well. Hank, initially hesitant, eventually agreed to meet with Sarah at a discreet cafe. "I always knew there was something rotten inside, but I never had concrete proof," he said, sipping his coffee. "If you have these messages, maybe it's time to expose everything." The revelations continued to emerge. Sarah discovered that, in addition to financial pressure, there was a tacit agreement to protect certain department leaders who had political and business ties. These discoveries brought a new dimension to John's case, revealing a network of corruption and favoritism beyond what they could have imagined. In court, Sarah presented the new evidence with the skill of an experienced attorney. She detailed each irregularity, each compromising email, and called Hank and other former firefighters as witnesses to corroborate the allegations. "Your Honor," began Sarah, with a firmness that filled the room with anticipation. "John Carter's case is not just about a difficult decision during a fire. It's about a corrupted system that sacrificed a dedicated firefighter to protect its own interests. These documents prove that John's dismissal was a political maneuver to save reputations and secure donations." The courtroom was silent, absorbing the impact of the revelations. The faces of the fire department's board members turned pale, and nervous whispers echoed among those present. John, sitting next to Sarah, felt a mix of anger and relief. The truth was finally coming out, and he knew the fight was far from over, but now he had a real chance at justice. As Sarah continued to expose the details, the tension in the courtroom increased. The community, already supporting John, was now even more determined to see those responsible punished. The legal battle was becoming more than just a dismissal case. It was a fight against corruption and for the integrity of the Los Angeles Fire Department. At the end of the session, the judge declared that the new evidence would be thoroughly examined and that a deeper investigation would be conducted. Sarah and John left the courtroom with a new sense of purpose and determination. The battle was just beginning, but the truth was finally emerging, bringing hope for justice and redemption. The day of the trial arrived, and the courtroom was filled with tension. John Carter sat beside Sarah Thompson, feeling the weight of the moment. All eyes were on him as the community eagerly awaited the testimonies that could change the course of his destiny. The judge, a middle-aged man with a serious demeanor, called the first witness. Lucy entered the courtroom, standing tall but with eyes showing the vulnerability of someone who had faced many hardships. She sat down and looked directly at John, offering an encouraging smile before beginning to speak. "My name is Lucy," she began, her voice firm but filled with emotion. "I was a homeless woman when John Carter saved me from that fire. He didn't know who I was. He only knew my life was in danger. To him, every life is important, regardless of social status." As Lucy spoke, describing the impact John's rescue had on her life, tears rolled down the faces of some in the audience. She talked about how that act of bravery gave her a new chance, inspiring her to change her life and volunteer at the community center. John didn't just save my life that day, Lucy continued. He gave me hope. He is a true hero and doesn't deserve to be punished for doing what is right. Lucy's testimony moved everyone in the courtroom. The judge paused, allowing her words to resonate in the silence of the room. Then, he called other witnesses, homeless individuals who had been helped by John on various occasions. Each had a touching story, highlighting John's humanity and dedication to those society often ignored. Hector, a war veteran living on the streets, was next to testify. I lost faith in humanity until I met John. He treated me with dignity and respect, helping me when no one else cared. He didn't just save lives, he restored hope in many of us. The testimonies from the homeless were followed by those of fellow firefighters, who risked their own positions to support John. Sarah called Mike, the veteran firefighter who, despite past disagreements, recognized John's integrity. I've worked with John for years, Mike said, his voice grave. We had our differences, but I never doubted his courage and commitment to the job. On the day of the fire, he made a tough choice, but one based on ethics and the urgency of the moment. He is one of the best we have. Sarah then called Sarah, John's close friend and colleague, who was visibly emotional. John has always been the first to enter a burning building and the last to leave. He puts others' lives above his own, without hesitation. His dismissal is an injustice we cannot accept. The firefighters' testimonies were powerful, showing the solidarity within the team and the confidence everyone had in John. Every word reinforced the idea that John had been treated unjustly and that his actions on the day of the fire were a result of his unwavering commitment to protecting lives. The highlight of the day came when Emma, John's sister, was called to the witness stand. Her eyes were full of determination as she looked at her brother with love and pride. John is my brother and my hero, said Emma, her voice trembling with emotion. He taught me early on the value of empathy and courage. I've seen the positive impact he's had on so many lives. He doesn't deserve to be punished for following his heart and doing what he thought was right. Each testimony brought out the true nature of John, painting a portrait of a dedicated, courageous, and deeply humane man. The courtroom was filled with a mix of emotions, with many wiping away tears as the testimonies continued. When the last testimony was concluded, Sarah stood up to make her final argument. Your Honor, it has become clear that John Carter is more than just a firefighter. He is a pillar of his community, a hero who inspires everyone around him. His dismissal is not only an injustice against him, but against everyone he has helped and saved. I ask that you consider not only the facts but also the human impact and integrity of this man. The judge looked at John, then at the audience waiting anxiously. He knew that the decision he would make would go beyond John's case, affecting the entire community and the fire department itself. As the court dispersed to await the decision, John felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He knew that, regardless of the outcome, he had been supported and recognized by those who mattered most. The battle was not yet won, but with the strength of the witnesses and Sarah's skill, he hoped that justice would prevail. The courtroom was buzzing with murmurs as everyone awaited the resumption of the trial. The tension in the air was palpable, each person present feeling the weight of the impending decision. John Carter sat beside Sarah Thompson, trying to remain calm as adrenaline coursed through his veins. He knew this day would be crucial for his future. The judge entered the room, bringing an immediate silence. He nodded at Sarah, indicating she could continue with her final arguments. Sarah stood, ready to speak, but before she could begin, a commotion arose at the back of the courtroom. A man hurried in carrying a laptop and a flash drive. His face showed urgency and determination. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption, but I have crucial evidence that could change the course of this trial, he said, out of breath. The judge, surprised, looked at the man. Identify yourself and explain quickly. My name is Michael Johnson. I work for the security company responsible for the surveillance of the building where the fire occurred. During a recent review, I found a video that I believe is vital to this case. The murmurs grew louder, curiosity rising among those present. The judge, after brief consideration, nodded. "Very well, Mr. Johnson. Show us what you have." Michael approached the judge's bench, connecting the flash drive to the laptop and projecting the video onto a large screen for everyone to see. The room fell into complete silence as the footage began to play. The video showed the night of the fire, capturing the intensity of the flames and the chaos of the firefighting efforts. John appeared on the screen, acting with determination and bravery. He was seen leading the team, giving clear and precise instructions, exactly as he had described in his testimony. As the video continued, a crucial detail emerged. The cameras captured Ryan Mitchell, visibly panicked, but in an area of the building that, according to temperature and location data, was not in immediate danger. John, on the other hand, was seen rescuing Lucy, who was directly threatened by the flames. The video showed John carrying Lucy out of the building with the precision of an experienced firefighter. The camera focused on the final moments of the rescue, where John and his team finally exited the building, seconds before part of the ceiling collapsed, cutting off the area where Ryan had been. The impact of the video was immediate. The room was silent, each person absorbing what they had just witnessed. Sarah stood, seizing the opportunity to reinforce her argument. "Your Honor, this video unequivocally proves that John Carter acted with bravery and followed his trained instincts to save lives. His decision to rescue Lucy was based on the immediate threat she faced. Ryan Mitchell, although in danger, was not in immediate peril as initially alleged." The judge's eyes were fixed on the screen, reflecting the seriousness of the situation. He looked around the room, seeing the mix of relief and indignation on people's faces. "We will take a recess to review this new evidence. We will reconvene in 1 hour," he declared, rising. During the break, John felt a surge of emotions. His colleagues, including Sarah and Lucy, surrounded him, offering words of encouragement and support. "You did it, John," said Lucy, her eyes shining with emotion. "The truth is finally coming out." When the trial resumed, the judge returned to his seat, his expression more serious than before. After reviewing the new evidence, it is clear that John Carter acted according to safety protocols and made decisions based on the immediate situation and the information available at the time. The allegation of misconduct is not supported by the facts presented. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. John felt a wave of emotion wash over him. The judge continued, "I declare that all charges against John Carter are to be dropped. He is to be reinstated to the fire department with honor and recognition for his bravery." The room erupted in applause and cheers of joy. John, with tears in his eyes, hugged Sarah, Lucy, and his fellow firefighters. The battle had been tough, but justice had finally prevailed. As the celebrations continued, John knew his life would never be the same. The truth had come out, and he could now continue his mission with his head held high, knowing he had the unwavering support of his community and the renewed respect of his colleagues. The courtroom, which had been a battleground, now transformed into a symbol of justice and redemption. John Carter, the firefighter who never gave up, was ready to face new challenges, armed with the certainty that, in the end, the truth always prevails. The revealing video continued to resonate in everyone's minds as the courtroom prepared for the final decision. The media, always eager for sensationalism, reacted instantly. Dramatic headlines flooded social media and news websites. "Crucial evidence clears John Carter," "Heroism captured on video," and "John Carter, injustice overturned." Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Journalists jostled for space, microphones and cameras aimed at John and Sarah, ready to capture every moment. Outside, the crowd grew, people holding signs of support and chanting words of encouragement. The judge returned to his seat, the room falling into tense silence. After reviewing all the evidence, including the recent video, it is clear that John Carter acted according to the highest standards of his profession. His decision to save Lucy was based on a precise assessment of the immediate danger. A wave of relief and emotion swept through the room. John squeezed Sarah's hand, feeling a profound gratitude for her relentless dedication. The judge continued, "Furthermore, The court recognizes the irregularities and undue pressures that led to his dismissal. I order that John Carter be immediately reinstated to the fire department, with all honors restored. The sound of applause and cheers of joy exploded in the room, mingling with the camera flashes. The judge raised his hand, calling for silence to continue. I also order that John Carter receive compensation for moral damages and lost income during the period of his unjust dismissal. Let this serve as a reminder that integrity and justice must prevail. John felt tears roll down his face as the reality of the decision sank in. He looked at Lucy, who was visibly emotional, and at his fellow firefighters who smiled and waved in support. The sense of victory was overwhelming. Sarah stood, making one last statement. I would like to thank everyone who supported John during this process. This case has shown the power of truth and a united community. John Carter is an example of courage and integrity, and it is a privilege to fight alongside him. As they left the courtroom, John was greeted as a hero. The crowd outside cheered with applause and shouts of support. People approached to shake his hand, take photos, and offer words of encouragement. Among them were some of the homeless people he had helped over the years, each with a story of gratitude and respect. John paused to speak with Hector, the war veteran. You deserve this, John. You were always there for us. And now it's our turn to be here for you. Hector's words deeply touched John's heart. Thank you, Hector. I couldn't have done it without everyone's support. The journey to justice had been arduous, but the result brought renewed faith and purpose to John. Media coverage was relentless in the following days, with interviews and reports detailing his heroism and the injustice he had faced. In one of these interviews, Lucy was invited to speak about her relationship with John. He's not just a firefighter, he's a true hero. He sees beyond people's circumstances and values every life. I'm here today because of him. Sarah, always by John's side, highlighted the importance of fighting for justice. This case is an example of how determination and truth can win. Never underestimate the power of a united community. Over time, John's life returned to normal, but now with a new perspective. He returned to the fire station, receiving a warm reception from his colleagues. There was a new respect and admiration in the air, each mission an opportunity to show that truth and courage can truly prevail. One quiet night, sitting in the community center's courtyard with Lucy and Sarah, John reflected on recent events. I never imagined going through all this, but I'm grateful to have you by my side. Lucy smiled, holding his hand. You deserve this, John. You showed us what it means to be a true hero. Sarah nodded. And now you have the chance to keep making a difference. With everything we've been through, I know you're stronger than ever. As the stars shone above, John felt a deep peace. He knew that no matter what the future held, he was ready to face any challenge with courage, integrity, and the support of a community he loved so much. The sun was high in the Los Angeles sky when John Carter received an unexpected phone call. On the other end of the line was Amanda Mitchell, Ryan Mitchell's sister. She requested a meeting, wishing to resolve pending issues and discuss a possible apology. John accepted, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. The meeting was arranged in a quiet park, away from the curious eyes of the media. John arrived early, using the silence to reflect on recent events. The soft sound of the wind rustling the leaves and the birds singing created a serene atmosphere, but the tension was undeniable. Shortly after, Amanda arrived accompanied by her parents, Robert and Helen Mitchell. Their eyes were marked by grief and pain, but there was also palpable determination in their expressions. Amanda approached John, extending her hand with a timid smile. John, thank you for meeting us, she said, her voice heavy with emotion. We are here to correct a mistake and, most importantly, to apologize. John shook her hand, feeling the weight of the moment. Thank you for coming. I know this must be difficult. They sat on a wooden bench, an initial silence giving way to Amanda speaking. Since Ryan's death, our family has gone through very tough times. When we heard about the fire and the circumstances, the pain and anger blinded us. We wanted to blame someone, and you became the target. Helen Mitchell, with tears in her eyes, held Amanda's hand and continued. "We saw the video and heard the testimonies. It became clear that you did what you could and that Ryan was not in immediate danger. We deeply regret doubting your integrity." Robert Mitchell, the family patriarch, took a deep breath before speaking. "John, I know words can't change the past, but we want you to know that we recognize our mistake. Ryan was our son and brother, and nothing will bring him back. But we want you to know that we don't blame you. On the contrary, we thank you for saving Lucy and for your commitment to human life." The moment was filled with emotion, the words hanging in the air like a balm for old wounds. John, feeling a mix of relief and sadness, responded sincerely, "I can't imagine the pain you feel. I deeply regret the loss of Ryan. My job is to save lives, and at that moment, I made the decision I thought was right. I appreciate the acknowledgement and the words of regret. It means a lot to me." Amanda nodded, wiping away a tear rolling down her cheek. "We want to do something to honor Ryan's memory and also support your cause. We will organize a charity event in Ryan's name to raise funds for the fire department and the community center where Lucy works. We hope this helps heal some wounds and strengthen our community." John smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "That would be amazing. I believe Ryan would be proud to know that his memory is helping save other lives and supporting those in need." The preparations for the event began quickly, with the help of John, Lucy, and the Mitchell family. The day of the event arrived, and the park where they first met was transformed into a vibrant space of solidarity and support. Food stalls, live music, and a play area for children created an atmosphere of celebration and remembrance. During the event, Helen Mitchell took to the improvised stage, holding a microphone. "We are here today to honor Ryan's memory and to recognize John Carter's bravery. This event is a symbol of reconciliation and hope. May we learn to value every life and support each other in times of need." Applause echoed through the park as Helen stepped down from the stage. John, standing next to Lucy, felt embraced by the community that meant so much to him. People approached to share words of gratitude and support, each interaction reinforcing the bond he had with his city. Amanda joined them, a sincere smile on her face. "This is just the beginning, John. Together, we can make a real difference." John looked around, seeing familiar and new faces, all united by a common purpose. He felt a deep peace, knowing that despite the difficulties, he had found redemption and a new meaning in life. The reconciliation with the Mitchell family not only healed old wounds but also strengthened ties within the community. John knew that, with loyal friends and the unwavering support of everyone around him, he was ready to face any challenge the future might bring, armed with the certainty that truth and kindness always prevail. The morning was clear and sunny as John Carter prepared to officially return to the fire station. Dressed in his impeccable uniform, he looked in the mirror, feeling a wave of emotions. The journey had been long and full of challenges, but today would be a day of celebration and recognition. Upon arriving at the station, John was greeted with warm applause from his colleagues. The commander, who had always held deep respect for John, stood at the front of the line, holding a shiny medal. "John, today is a special day," began the commander, his voice filled with emotion. "You are not only being reinstated to our team, but also being officially recognized as the hero you have always been." The firefighters lined up, forming an honor guard as John walked through the corridor formed by his colleagues. Each step was accompanied by smiles and supportive nods, each face showing respect and admiration. Sarah, the lawyer who fought tirelessly alongside John, was present, watching with pride. Lucy, standing next to her, had eyes shining with happiness. Amanda Mitchell and her family were also there, fulfilling their promise to support John and the community. In the station's courtyard, a formal ceremony had been organized. Flags fluttered in the wind, and the community gathered in a semicircle, eager to see the hero recognized. The mayor of Los Angeles took the improvised stage and began his speech. "Today, we honor a man who exemplifies courage, integrity, and humanity. John Carter, you have shown us all the true meaning of heroism. Your dedication and bravery are an example for everyone." The mayor handed the medal to the commander, who then pinned it on John's chest. "John Carter, it is with great honor that I reinstate you to the Los Angeles Fire Department and bestow upon you this Medal of Bravery. Your courage saved lives, and your integrity united our community." The crowd applauded standing, the applause echoing through the courtyard. John felt a wave of pride and emotion, tears threatening to fall as he looked at all those who had supported his journey. When the commotion subsided, John was invited to speak. He stepped up to the stage, took a deep breath, and looked at the crowd. "Thank you all. This moment is more than I could have imagined. I am not a hero alone. Each one of you who supported, believed, and fought by my side are the true heroes. Together, we showed that truth and justice always prevail." John's eyes met those of his sister, Emma, standing at the front of the crowd. She smiled, tears of pride streaming down her face. "You are my hero, John," she whispered, and although he couldn't hear, he felt the strength of her words. The event continued with celebrations, music, and food, turning the station's courtyard into a true community party. Children ran and played, inspired by John's example. Parents pointed at him, telling heroic stories and emphasizing the importance of courage and kindness. For John, the impact of this reintegration went beyond honors and medals. It was a confirmation that his work made a difference, that every life saved mattered. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, an even greater desire to serve and protect his community. In the following days, John continued his work with new vigor. He became an inspiring figure not only within the station but throughout the city. He visited schools, talked about fire safety, and inspired young people to pursue careers in public service. The community center where Lucy worked received generous donations, allowing the expansion of services to help even more people in need. John's personal life also flourished. He and Lucy became even closer, sharing an unbreakable bond forged in adversity. His relationship with Emma strengthened, both valuing family moments even more. The community's support, friends, and family gave John a solid foundation to continue his journey. One night, while walking through the park where it all began, John found a newly installed commemorative plaque dedicated to the heroes of Los Angeles. His name was engraved there, along with a quote, "True courage is doing what is right, even when it's difficult." John smiled, feeling the gentle breeze and looking up at the starry sky. He knew that, no matter what the future brought, he was ready to face any challenge with courage, integrity, and the support of a community he loved so much. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to our channel now. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Leave a like if you liked it,